America, and Zack Taylor is a guest panelist today. We are missing Jeff Hooch. Jeff is taking care of his sister who is ill. So welcome to you, Ken Bennett. Thanks for coming on. And Paul
Hi,
Fitch
Don.
is trying to
Hi, all.
join us. We have a lot to talk about. I'm not sure what you'd like to get started with. I sort of want to start with all the news from Arizona. I've seen a lot of stuff this week, and the first thing I saw was that Andy Biggs is going to run for governor next year. So what do you think about that? Is that good?
Yeah, he opened what's called an exploratory committee, which is the official way of saying that you're interested. You have to do that in order to collect signatures or collect any funds and things like that. So no, I think that's going to be it's going to make for a very interesting race, because if the person that came in second a couple years ago behind Carrie Lake, Karen Taylor Robeson, if she runs again, she's already been told in public that Trump has her endorsement if she runs. So
And he
if
didn't.
Karen Taylor, if Karen Taylor Robeson is in the race, and that's the Robeson communities, the big
Right.
real estate family, they got lots of money. If she's in the race with Trump's endorsement, and Biggs is in the race, with all the conservative credentials that he has, and I served with Andy in the legislature. I was president of the Senate several cycles before Andy later became president of the Senate. In fact,
Right.
Andy was in the House. Andy was a freshman in the House of Representatives during the time I was president of the Senate. But I got to know him, and we both served our church missions in Japan. So we speak a little Japanese to each other whenever we run into each other. And
There you go.
our kids went to school together at ASU, and so I know Andy well. Andy would make a great governor. I believe Karen Taylor Robeson would make a great governor. I think Kimberly Yee, the state treasurer, has been thinking about it, and maybe there's others. I don't know, but
do you think they can either one of them beat Katie Hobbs?
yes. Well, I know Karen Taylor Robeson can win the general election. And I think Andy can too. He would just have to make sure that he doesn't get too far away from the middle, the conservative middle, which I think wins general election, and in Arizona, independents. I mean, we're about a third. Well, we're about 36% Republican, 33% independent, and 30% Democrat. So in Arizona, if you want to win a general election, you got to win independents and a few Democrats.
Yeah, right. Well, I thought that was good news, and Karen Robeson, the Robeson company is pretty much the contractor that built Quail Creek in Green Valley in Serena.
Okay.
So she's they're pretty well known down there, certainly. Well, it'll be interesting to see if, of course, at the time Trump didn't know Andy Biggs was running, and he's a big fan of Andy Biggs. So.
And that's a very unique situation here. Is that Trump has announced the endorsement of somebody that I don't know if he would have made that announcement if he knew that Andy was already in the race, but he's also very loyal. Trump is big on loyalty, and once he says he's
there. Yeah.
He's somewhere, he stays there unless there's got to be a real good reason for him to change his mind.
Sure. Yeah, and Andy knows that going in. So
I think he does. Yeah, he's a big boy.
That, yeah. So the other thing I saw was that the new Maricopa County recorder is going to purge the voter rolls of over 200,000 voters. Did you guys see that headline?
Yes.
Yes, 242,000 inactive voters from the list.
So were they now? These were inactive before the last election, or we don't know.
Well, We don't know. They were
Let me
just
tell.
inactive when he purged it.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you how that works. First of all, he's doing his job because that's what state law says that every county recorder should do.
Right.
Uh, even the previous county recorder that a lot of conservatives despised, Stephen Richer,
Yeah.
he did usually somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 to over 200,000 voters purged each of the last 4 Januaries.
Okay.
So in 21, 22, 23, and 24, January is the big purge month in Arizona because the state law basically says if you have not voted in 2 consecutive election cycles, both the primary and the general, that includes a presidential election, then the county is obligated to send you a confirmation card or notice to see if you're still at your address. If that is returned undeliverable to the county, you move to inactive status. Now, you're still a registered voter, but they obviously have evidence that you're not at that address, so they make you inactive. But you're still a registered voter, and if you show up, you will be allowed to vote, but you'll just have to correct your address situation.
Okay.
But once you get on the inactive list, then if you miss 2 more election cycles, then you are required or supposed to be removed from the voter rolls per state law.
Okay.
And so when presidential general elections occur, and somebody who was already on the inactive list and they have not voted in the next 2 elections, then the counties are supposed to remove them. Stephen Richer, the previous county recorder, did it every January. I just was on the phone with the Yavapai County recorder. They do it every January. January is usually the biggest month for purging voters in Arizona. And 200,000 voters, Yavapai County just purged about 10,000 voters, which is a little bit less than 10% of the total voter registration in Yavapai County. And 240,000 voters being purged in Maricopa County is a little bit less than 10% of the voters in Maricopa County. They have about 2.6 million.
That's a pretty good chunk.
So, yeah. So this is not, but this happens every year.
Yeah, right.
And he's doing his job. He's not doing something that Stephen Richer failed to do.
Right.
Stephen Richer did it each of the last 4 years as well. But yeah, he released a press release saying that he's, purging 200 whatever thousand voters, and that sounds good to the people that supported him, and it should, because that's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the ones that didn't like Stephen Richer, they probably think this is something new and it's great, but
yeah,
I understand.
And that's my main point.
Right,
is that
I understand.
This is not. In fact, interestingly, Stephen Richer could have purged these voters in December.
Yeah.
And Justin Heap
wouldn't have
would not have had any. Who wouldn't have had anything to purge in January like they normally do.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why Stephen Richer didn't beat him to the punch. But Stephen Richer could have purged these voters in December, and Heap would be saying, "I didn't purge anybody; they're already purged."
Yeah. Well, he missed his chance to get him out of the headlines because.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big story that I picked up out here in Florida. So, that's how those things get magnified. So, what else is going on in Arizona? Did I see? I saw something else going on. Oh, I wanted to know what activity there is right now in Arizona, and maybe Zack would have a better idea because of his experience in an ex-border patrolman and et cetera, and living down in Rio Rico. What's going on in the area, Zach? Are you seeing any new activity down there?
Same old, same old.
Same old, huh?
You got to remember, Don, that the people that we're dealing with in Santa Cruz County are sixth generation smugglers. And their stock and trade is doing their business right before your eyes without you noticing it.
Right. Yeah.
It's called picando los ojos, so poking you in the eyes and making you blind.
Yeah.
And I can tell you for a fact that there's people here that have run. We caught one group of drug smugglers that there were 3 generations in the family in that group. And one of them had been running dope out of Mexico for 30 years and never been caught.
Wow.
And that's not once a year. That's like once a week. So they're very good at doing things sort of below the radar.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Santa Cruz County is different, right?
It's not like any place else on the face of the earth,
I know
and certainly not like any place else in Arizona.
Yeah.
Yuma's kind of like it, but different.
Oh, I know the other headline I heard. I just remembered it. I heard that Raul Grijalva's in hospice.
Well, I heard that when he was running.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Yeah, that's something that we didn't know if that. Well, is that happening or what is going on? So
that's the first I've heard of it.
Yeah,
That's news to me.
Heard it. I heard. When did I hear it?
Paul, I've got you on 2 screens now.
I heard it in October.
I was just letting Paul know we got him on 2 screens. I got a double screen now. Okay, he's turning that one off. So I think he's trying another computer. So anything else in Arizona? I saw a video today of, and there was a Fox report about all the activity in Boston right now. Boston is a sanctuary city. ICE is very busy in Boston right now. They showed video of the guys were out early in the morning in the freezing weather, putting their plan together, and now and they executed, and they got several people in the Boston area, MS-13, all kinds of real bad people. None of these people were.
Yeah.
I guess there was one guy that he wasn't a criminal, but he wasn't illegal, and he was with the MS-13 guy when they raided his place. So he got snapped up too. So they call that collateral.
Yeah,
that's collateral pickups. So.
Yep. I saw the same news story, and you've nailed it. That's exactly how it happened.
What I was going to tell everybody, we ought to spread the word that if I run into some ICE people anywhere, in a restaurant anywhere, I'm going to buy the meal for them. I really am, because I think that next to getting our January 6th people out of prison, that these people that have been in prison for 3 or 4 years and never had a trial, I mean, there's something wrong with that, right? And then our ICE agents, which is a very difficult job, and you don't go after really nice people, right? They picked up this one Haitian. Did you see the Haitian in Boston, Ken? I mean,
yes.
This guy was not happy.
I'm not going to go back to Haiti. And God bless Joe Biden, and thank you, Biden and Obama, for what you did for me. So he was big fans of Obama and Biden, because they hadn't taken him away, but he wasn't excited about going back to his own country.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah. But too bad. I just have no sympathy for him. I'm sorry.
I agree.
And have you heard anything about self-deporting, Zach? Anybody contacted you? Is that happening with anybody? Are they checking their way out of the country?
Yeah, you can just kind of watch 19. And then I saw something about an entire neighborhood self-deported in Chicago.
Oh, really?
Really?
Okay. Yeah,
The
well,
whole idea of providing the visual stimulus, like the military being involved in people showing up in their home country in military marked aircraft, is to promote self deportation and to deter people that are thinking about coming. Because people aren't like Americans. If they read it in the newspaper or they hear it on the radio, they don't pay any attention to it. If they see it, they pay attention to it.
yeah,
So when they see these people being arrested and putting on these planes and then ending up in their home country in a U.S. Air Force Mark C-17 and 400 of their countrymen pile out the back of it, they get the message. America is closed.
yeah. Well, and that's all good news. So yeah, well,
Oh.
hopefully we'll get a lot of video coming up of that thing. You know, those things happen. And I think I also heard that Abbott's already put together some areas down in Texas to hold these people, some large areas to some camps to put them in.
But you know, there's always those, 57 FEMA camps.
Yeah. Which they closed up, right?
Not that I know of.
No. Yeah.
They may have closed one or two, but
Yeah. Well, you guys also heard that they've taken some of this money that they were spending on illegals and they're giving it now to North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Folks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So, and I think the president's going there on Friday. He's going to North Carolina and he's also going out to LA. So we got a lot of interesting news coming up, the news cycle. We'll hear a lot of interesting stuff. So, well, not too much in Florida. All of the sheriffs have signed on to DeSantis is having a special session to put together the state plan to support President Trump in getting the illegals out of here. And
Okay.
all of the sheriffs in Florida have signed up to helping the feds get them out of here. So I don't know of anybody here that's resisting that. There's a few the complaints by the Democrats that, oh, we don't need a special session. That's their only thing, is they just don't want to go to work earlier than normal. So
well, the only thing the sheriff needs to do is to question the people that he already has in jail.
oh yeah.
And then if they answer a certain way to that list of questions, he calls ICE.
Yeah.
ICE or Border Patrol goes in and establishes alienage, because only an immigration officer can establish alienage. So they go in there, and when they decide that he's an illegal alien, they put a hold on him. Then ICE pays for the detention.
Okay.
So it's a benefit to the sheriff.
Yeah. Well, I know we got one sheriff down here, Grady Judd, who's in Polk County. He's got ICE on speed dial.
Well, I think many Democrats are realizing that their leadership has botched the border and the immigration issue. We just had both our U.S. senators from Arizona, both Democrats, vote yes for the Lake and Riley bill.
Oh, good. Well, yeah. Well, they
And
realized
they are-
something then.
They are, I think they were 2 of 12 in the U.S. Senate that voted, I think, with all the Republicans.
Yeah.
And that bill got signed yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. But they took a little heat from some Democrats in Arizona that Kelly and Ruben Gallego, both Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego, both of Arizona's U.S. senators voted yes on that Lake and Riley bill.
Great. Yeah, that's good. So I don't know if you guys saw it. Did you see Gallego question Pam Bondi?
No, I did not.
It was kind of interesting because he asked her, he was worried about small cities and towns in Arizona don't have enough money to support all the illegals, and he wants more money for those towns and cities. And Pam Bondi says, well, there aren't going to be any illegals in here to support. so he kind of frowned about that. Kind of looked at her, but that was his only big question for her was,
Oh, really?
yeah, it was kind of interesting. But he said, well, Phoenix got a lot of money and Tucson got a lot of money, and they can handle all this, but these small towns can't do it. And anyway, that was her answer, so I thought that was great. So, and I heard Hegseth got voted out of committee today,
Oh, did he?
and Ratcliffe got confirmed today. So
Okay.
I think it was like 75-24 or something like that. And today, Mitch McConnell said he was going to vote for Hegseth. So,
Good.
so things are kind of moving along here. But I didn't realize how fast. They said within the first 7 days they had confirmed 12 of Obama's cabinet. I don't even remember that.
So that would have been what, 8 or 12 years ago or something?
Well, 2008 was his first.
8, yeah. So
cabinet,
16
right?
years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And so we've got 1.5.
But Obama had a Democrat-controlled Senate,
Yeah,
like Trump has now a Republican-controlled Senate. So,
exactly.
but I know that it was not a super majority for Obama either.
Yeah.
Neither one has 60 from their own party. But
Right.
I think the Senate should give some deference to the fact that a president, when elected, unless there's something very, very egregious about a nominee to his cabinet, needs to have those people confirmed.
Yeah.
Now, in Arizona, a few Republicans have said that that's the way it ought to work for Trump, but they have denied Katie Hobbs the same privilege of getting her cabinet
They did
confirmed.
Has she ever gotten anybody?
She's got, I think in the 2 years that I was in the Senate, she sent over about 25 and she got 3 or 4.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Now, what she did then is she played the game of appointing them as assistant agency directors, leave the director position open,
Yeah.
and state law says that only the director position has to be confirmed. But that's when the Senate then sued, and the courts agreed with the Senate that she can't leave the director positions vacant and get around the confirmation process in Arizona Constitution by only nominating assistant directors. So she lost that lawsuit, and she just sent another list of about 17 names I saw the other day to the Senate, and we'll see whether they give her a little more deference this time or not.
Interesting.
Knowing the chairperson of that Director and Nominations Committee in the Senate, Jake Hoffman from Queen Creek, I doubt he's going to give her any more slack this year than he didn't give her last year. So we'll see.
Are they? Is the Arizona House and Senate in session, Ken? Are they?
Yes, they went in session on the 13th, Monday the 13th. So they're in the middle of their second week.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
I was watching TV, something on the internet last night. It was a live hearing in the Senate chambers, and they were talking about Katie Hobbs has spent all the money for several of the programs, and she was asking for something like 339 million additional funds to finish out the year.
That was part of that thing that Don sent out, where Garrett Lewis, radio talk show guy, said that the state was $340 some million short. But yes, if the state has plenty of money, as I responded to all of you, the operating cash balance of the state is $6.7 billion. But if individual agencies have overspent their budget, the governor has to ask for and get appropriated by the legislature a supplemental appropriation to cover any overages, and she's going to have a hard time getting 344 million if those numbers are correct.
That's going to be interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So that really explains it all right there. I was thinking maybe individual agencies have their budget, and if they overspend that budget, they have to go ask for more money. So what agencies do you think we're talking about, Ken?
I have not heard. I saw the story that you sent to us, and Mr. Lewis claimed that the Speaker of the House, Steve Montenegro, and the President of the Senate, Warren Peterson, had both confirmed that that was the number, but nowhere in the story did it say which agencies were overspending.
Got it. Yeah.
So,
Well,
and I also went back when I saw your email and went to the legislative website, went to what's called the Joint Legislative Budget Committee, and they had just had a monthly fiscal highlights meeting where they have a public meeting. Any legislators can come, not very many do, but they basically announce to the public the financial highlights of where the state is every month. And I completely read that about 14-page report, and there was no mention whatsoever. Just a week before, Garrett Lewis said that there's this $344 million overspending. There was no mention whatsoever in the JLBC report from just a few days before that.
can you recall, Ken, from your experience in the Senate and House, has any agency that did overspend during the year and you had to refinance them? Do you remember that ever happening before?
Not during my 4 years as Senate president. I even though I disagreed fundamentally on many things with Janet Napolitano, the governor, during my 4 years as Senate president, we found a way to at least be straightforward with each other, and we didn't have any overspending situations like that. In fact, when her and I came into office in 2003, the first thing that we were faced with was a $120 million shortage.
Right.
But it had been caused not by the agency's overspending, but the projected revenues from the previous governor's budget were coming in below projections.
Got it.
But either way, whether you overspent or whether you didn't collect as much money as you were planning on, we had a $120 million shortage, and we had to fix it in a matter of a couple of weeks. Because that's back when the total general fund of the state was only $6 billion. Now it's 18. Mm-hmm. And half of the year had already expired. When we came in January, the previous governor's budget had started the previous July 1st. So we had less than 4 or 5 months to fix a $120 million problem. So if you extrapolate that out, that would be like having about an $800 million problem in an $18 billion budget. Mm-hmm. And to Napolitano's credit, she cut $120 million of spending.
Oh, good.
But we kind of forced her, but yeah. She did.
She got the message, right?
Yeah, her first suggestion was, well, let's just borrow the $120 million. We said no.
Yeah, that's always, the credit line is always the first choice, right? For Democrats. They like that credit line, that credit card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, right now the federal government is taking in a little over $4 trillion a year, and we've been spending the last 2 years at over 6 trillion, 6.5 trillion, I think. Now, can you
don't have to go. You don't have to go back very far, and federal spending was at or below 4 trillion. Not too many years, just right. About 4 to 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Federal spending was at 4 trillion. If we'd have just froze the spending at that level, we would have a balanced budget today.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's just crazy stuff. So it's just unfortunate that we're here now. But so listen, I wanted to take time and ask each of you guys. You know when they come up with this, what was your red pill moment? You know what I'm talking about?
What's a red pill? I know
the red pill.
I've heard about some blue pills and some other things. But what's the red pill?
Yeah, red pill moment is when you find out what the truth really is.
Okay.
Okay. A lot of people are using that they've come around. There's a billionaire, a guy that sort of gave his testimony on this on another vlog. It's called All In, and he said that his red pill moment was for Trump was when he had always believed what they were telling him about what he said about this North Carolina thing and and the the Nazi, whatever they called him, and when they had the riots down there, and he always believed the Democrat story. Well, when he went back and listened to what Trump really said, that was his red pill moment, because he knew that he didn't say what the Democrats were saying that he said. So did you guys have a red pill moment with Trump, or have you always been on his bandwagon? Was there any time that you even in the early primaries in 2016, I know Patty and I, we had a long argument with a guy that wanted Marco Rubio, and he said, "Who are you for?" And Patty and I said, "Well, we're for Trump. He's just saying stuff that, that the things that we like, and he's being frank with everybody." And they made a big thing about him, all the name calling and all that, But I remember early on in that one of those first debates. You remember when he was standing there waiting to come out on the stage, and they didn't announce what's the doctor's name, the black doctor, the
Carson.
Dr. Carson, yeah. They left him standing there behind the curtain, and they didn't announce his name. Everybody else walked out before him, and Trump waited until they called his name and called him out, and then Trump went out. I just thought that was really something. I mean, I just thought that was terrific that he waited till they called Carson's name before he took the stage.
I had never heard that story, and I don't recall watching that live, so
Yeah,
I didn't know that had happened.
That happened live, and they had a camera back there on Trump and Carson, and he just stood there waiting, and Marco walked by, and somebody else walked by, and somebody else, and Dr. Carson was standing there saying, he's thinking, what, are they going to call my name? Do they even have my name? So they finally did call it, and he went out, and then Trump waited. They had announced him earlier, but he waited.
Once Trump, my answer, Don, is once Trump won the nomination in the summer of 16, summer of 15, I guess,
you were
or
on
what?
board.
I was on board.
Yeah. Well, you went to the convention then, right?
No, I was there in 12. I was there in 12 when
you were in
Romney
12.
was nominated.
I thought you were there in 16.
I was in Tampa Bay in 12, but a large part of my comfort level came from my good friend Jeff DeWitt, who was the state treasurer, and I had gotten to know Jeff when I was Secretary of State, and got to know his family. They've been to my home several times. When it snows in Prescott, the DeWitts come up and play in the snow with us. And so when I realized how in for Trump that the DeWitts were, I was good.
Figure you couldn't be wrong, right? Yeah, we loved Patty and I love Jeff DeWitt. I just think he's a terrific person, and
he is.
Yeah, we met his family. He came down when he first ran for treasurer. He came down to the Republican roundup,
Yeah.
and came right down to that little old crowd, and he just thought he was terrific.
And I'll never forget seeing Jeff on the stage with Trump in 16, because Jeff was the chief financial officer of the nationwide campaign.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool that we had an Arizona boy.
No, that was great. And when we went to the rally in Tucson of Trump's, Jeff got us our seats. He asked us if we wanted VIP seats, and we said yeah. So he set us all up. So
it was so unfortunate. The conflict between him and Carrie Lake was so unfortunate.
Yeah, I know. I never will figure out why she.
She didn't need to throw him under the bus like that, and she sure did.
No. So, well, very good. So, did you have a red pill moment, Zach, or have you always been on board with Trump?
Short story. I had been the county chairman in the Republican committee for 16 years.
Right.
In December would be my last hoorah, because that's when we re-up. And I had not re-upped. So that means I wouldn't be a precinct committeeman anymore and ineligible to run for county chairman.
Okay.
When I saw Trump come down that escalator, I almost ran to the courthouse and got my application. Got the 10 signatures in about 10 hours and put it back in because I was not going to miss that because I knew what the other side was. I had been dealing with the Clintons for many years and knew a lot of the inside baseball that I doubt very few people knew. And I was anybody that had the guts that was not a politician.
Yeah, I know.
That would take on the Clintons. Shit, I'm getting behind them.
Yeah. And I watched Dan Bongino today. He has a show on Rumble every day about 11 o'clock Eastern time, I think it is. And he was showing some little video clips of why he thought Trump won this time. And he had a clip of Obama where Obama embarrassed Trump at one of these what do they call it, correspondence dinners. He actually embarrassed Trump. He talked to him for several minutes, said a lot of bad things about him. So he included that clip, and then he included the clip of Biden and some of his things and several other people. He said, but all those things, he says, I want to thank all those people for doing that. He said, because that made a big difference this year. So, it was a pretty interesting show today. So, well,
Have you seen the clip? Have you seen the clips of Biden being interviewed just before he came into office? So it would have been 2020 or early 21, where they asked him. They were afraid that Donald Trump was going to do a bunch of going out the door pardons.
Right.
Preemptive pardons and all this, and they were asking Biden, would you ever do such a thing? Oh no, why would you have to give somebody a pardon if they're not guilty? It's just egg all over his face now that he's done exactly what he said he would never do.
Oh yeah.
But that's what he I think that's his legacy.
Yeah.
Dishonest people normally accuse other people of the things that they are doing wrong themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or would do.
Yeah. Well, Chuck Schumer gave a big speech on the Senate floor about the same thing, which is a good lead on to our talking about the pardons, because that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today, and we still got a few minutes. What's your feeling about pardoning people that haven't actually been charged with a crime? Is that constitutional? I just don't think it is. But
I don't think it's going to stick legally.
Yeah, and the second question is, will some of that be challenged? Now, Biden didn't pardon himself. He didn't pardon Jack Smith, which is kind of interesting. He didn't pardon the Capitol policeman, the lieutenant that killed Ashley Babbitt. And there's a few others that he didn't pardon. That was kind of interesting. So what do you think? You think somebody's going to challenge this? Tom Fitton says, yeah, they all need to be challenged. He just doesn't believe that it's constitutional. So, and Tom Fitton's a pretty smart guy with Judicial Watch. So, what do you think? What do you think, Ken?
I did a little research. Here's an interesting tidbit. Who was Donald Trump's first pardon?
First pardon. Trying to think.
In his first term.
Yeah.
It has a very strong Arizona connection.
Wasn't it the guy that everybody thought George Bush was going to pardon?
No, it was Joe Arpaio.
Oh, Joe Arpaio.
Sheriff.
Okay, yeah, right.
The sheriff in Maricopa County.
Yeah, right.
Let me read his pardon. It's right here.
Yeah.
I've got it right here.
Cool.
A full and unconditional pardon, let's see. To all to whom these presents shall come, greeting, be it known that on this day, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, pursuant to my powers under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution, granted unto Joseph M. Arpaio a full and unconditional pardon, first paragraph, for his conviction of Section 401 and and which he was convicted on in 2017. And the sentencing is currently set for later, whatever. Then the second paragraph, for any other offenses under Title 21 of Chapter 21 of Title 18 U.S. Code that might arise or be charged in connection with Melendres versus Arpaio, and it's got a docket number and whatever. When I looked at the list of the Trump pardons, though, during his first term, these are the exception of any reference to offenses that you might be charged with.
Right.
Almost all of the other ones. Well, who was his last pardon, by the way? His last pardon was Jeanine Pirro's former husband, Albert Pirro. But in most of the other pardons, it's specifically for something that a person has been sentenced to.
Right. Right.
But there were a handful of Trump pardons, like Arpaio's second section of his pardon, for things that might arise out of something he had already done but not yet charged with. So I don't think it's been really very well flushed out through the legal system of the country, of course.
Yeah.
But I think these blanket pardons for somebody when they've never been charged with anything. I mean, at least Joe Arpaio's pardon was for a conviction that had occurred, or any other actions that would arise from that incident.
From that incident, right.
From other charges and things like that.
Right.
But these just blanket pardons to somebody for anything they might do ever, that stinks.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So, and of course that started out with the Hunter thing, and then it turned out the last few minutes of his presidency, while Trump was speaking, he listed his whole family, right?
Yeah.
Put the brothers on there, put the sister on there, put the grandkids on there.
When I was researching Trump's pardons in his first term, I thought it interesting. You know who Trump pardoned from 1873?
Who's that?
Susan B. Anthony.
Oh, really?
She was convicted of voting illegally and fined $100, and he pardoned her 150 years later.
That's really cool. Yeah, they ought to publish that, right, or get it out in the public, man. That's neat. Yeah, that's very good. Well, who was the guy that everybody thought George Bush was going to pardon?
I can't remember who you're thinking of.
He was, I don't remember what he was convicted of, but he was good friends with Dick Cheney and
Scooter Libby.
Worked for them. Do you remember who it was, Zach?
Scooter Libby.
Scooter Libby, yeah. Yeah.
And Trump pardoned him.
Right. Trump pardoned Scooter Libby. Yeah. And they
Bush did not.
Yeah, right.
Bush did not. Trump did.
Yeah.
There's some other interesting ones that Trump pardoned. Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
He pardoned Steve Bannon. Matthew Goldstein. There's Susan B. Anthony. There's Albert Pirro. Rick Renzi. Rick Renzi, the congressman from Arizona.
Right.
And there's several others, but
how about the guy that?
Oh, Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn. He pardoned Michael Flynn.
There you go. How about the guy that was one of his economic guys that got put in prison for? Can't think of his name now. He wrote a book about it.
I think he did. But on his last day going out the door, the only pardon Trump did was Pirro. The day before, the 19th, he did about 40 or 50. Rick Renzi. I don't know most of these other names on here, but Lewandowski, Anthony Lewandowski, Rick Renzi, Steve Bannon. Anyway, certainly Trump did not do what Biden has done, these unconditional pardons for anybody for anything.
Right.
And again, the irony is that when asked about whether that would ever happen 4 years ago, when the Democrats thought Trump might do something like that, they accused him of exactly what he ended up not doing, but they ended up doing.
Oh yeah, which is that's kind of their MO. you know? Yeah. So I met a guy down at CPAC here when we first came down. I think it was 2021, 2020, early 2020. They had CPAC in Florida, and we met him here, and he's the one that made the Hunter Biden movie.
Oh, Dinesh D'Souza was pardoned by
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Trump.
Dinesh was, yeah. But this his theory is that because Ford pardoned Nixon and Nixon had not been officially charged, that set the precedent for unconditional pardons. So there's another argument that some folks are making that, well, it doesn't matter if they were convicted or not, but when I read the Constitution, and Nixon, they were gearing up to charge him with a crime. They were working on that. But I think the Democrats, they knew that if they could get Ford to pardon Nixon, that would give them the election. I really believe that they knew that would probably elect Jimmy Carter. So they kind of slow walked the conviction and all that because they knew they could get Ford to, they knew Ford was going to do that. So, but I don't know if that's considered a precedent, or, I don't know. It'll be argued sometime in the court of law. We'll see, and we'll see who challenges any of these pardons. The ones, the unconditional, or not the.
Well, the Constitution says, and he, talking about the president, this is Section 2 of Article 2, the executive branch, and he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. Yeah. So you can't pardon yourself from being impeached,
right,
and stay in office, but all others are, you can pardon for offenses against the United States, but it
doesn't really
it's silent as to whether it's past or future.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you wonder what the founding fathers were thinking when they wrote that. But are any of the Federalist Papers talk about that? You guys?
I'm not a scholar on the Federalist Papers.
We'd have to ask Jeff when he comes back on if the Federalist Papers are, cover any of that pardon stuff. That would probably.
I've been watching the news yesterday and today on the Microsoft. It's just a constant flow on your screen.
Yeah.
Birthright citizenship's being talked about a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lot of disinformation being put out about it.
Sure. Of course.
And it's from the news anchors' questions are trying to lead the people that know what the answer is out into the weeds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that means they know what the law says, and they're trying to soften the public and make an emotional appeal.
Sure.
About, oh, you can't separate families and you can't do this and that.
Right.
Birthright citizenship is only about one thing.
It's about the slaves.
Right.
Right. Yeah, they wanted to give citizenship to the sons and daughters of the slaves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because illegal aliens didn't exist back in the 1860s.
Right.
And if you go back and listen, or in my case, read the debate on the floor when they were debating it, it is crystal clear that that's what it was for and nothing else.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and you've always argued that, Zach, and every time we've talked, that's what you've said.
Now, I'm going to put a cherry on that cake.
All right.
When I was a Border Patrol trainee at the Border Patrol Academy in Los Fresnos, Texas, my law instructor said, birthright citizenship is a policy. It is not the law.
Right. Yeah. True statement, right?
A quick search of the internet, Federalist number 74 talks about the pardon power of the president, and seems to, as I quickly read it, seems to be pro-pardon and only questioned whether pardons for treason would be wise.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it seems to be pro pardon.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Federalist number 74.
74. Okay, we'll have to read that. So, okay, very good. Well, we're just about the end of our time, guys. So, I'm sorry Paul couldn't get in. He must have had trouble with one of his computers. So, and so today is the 23rd of January, right? And next Thursday is the 30th of January, if my math is right. Because last time we met,
we've been worried about your math lately.
I know.
But
last time we met,
you
my
got
math
it this
was
time.
horrible. My math was horrible last time. So I was thinking about that before I even came on. I said, I can't do that again. I can't show that. Yeah. So I took a lot of courses.
Oh, good.
I should remember some of them, right?
So are we on for the 30th?
We're on for the 30th, yeah. And hopefully we'll get to talk about some of the Senate confirmations of some of these cabinet members and the Trump trip out to North Carolina and LA, where we're at with getting rid of some of the illegals. You know, there are a lot of things we can talk about. So this is a good conversation. Appreciate you guys coming on, really do, taking the time to sit down, and I hope you're enjoying it, because I enjoy it very much. And we're getting kind of more views every week, so that's kind of good. I mean, I'm not concerned about that. It doesn't matter to me if there's 1 or 10,000, but we're not doing this for any kind of monetary gift, you know. So, but it's just.
I was waiting when my $10,000 check was going to be mailed to me, but okay, now I know now.
Yeah. So if we haven't said anything that YouTube has kicked us off yet, so we're good. So we don't have to worry about Rumble, because they'll let you just go at it. So anyway, thanks guys. Thanks Zach. Thanks Ken.
Thank you Don.
Thanks
for
everybody.
Organizing it.
Yeah.
Getting it started.
Hope everybody subscribe and hit the like button, and we'll see you all next week on 4 Men in America. Thanks.
Thank you.